Hello, everybody. My name is Kimball Clark. My talk is on hugging strangers through AI. Okay, this is kind of an interesting experience. This is a little bit of my story about traveling really in the technology world ever since I was young. Let me just give you a quick background of who I am. I would probably say a technologist. Okay, this is kind of my travels in the 1980s. I was young when Atari came out, of course, and I played the Oregon Trail and played on an Apple computer in elementary school. And computers were really intriguing to me at 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And of course, in the 90s, I played Doom. I don't know if anybody has played Doom before. Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of the. So I used to love Doom, and I'd play with my geeky friends. And I started to do a little bit of programming with some of my geeky friends, where we were making our own. Instead, Doom had these really big, aggressive guns that you can shoot. It's like a first-person shooter game, and it was really bad for teenagers, and I wouldn't let my children play it. But anyway, so I was designing, instead of these really aggressive guns, a finger, like a rubber band gun with your finger. So you could shoot with rubber bands instead of these big, devastating guns. So my friends and I were trying to program that. Then I got into graphic design, and I started to work with Photoshop and Quark Express. Anybody ever used Quark Express before in here? All right. Okay, so I'm a big Quark Express guru. I was able to see and experience the change from the old printing methods to the new ones. I got employed at the Davis County Clipper up in Bountiful, and I was able to watch these men who were putting borders with tape around the articles of the newspaper. And here I was making a border in Quark Express instantly, and they would look at me and say, "You're going to put me out of work." And it's true, I did. Because putting a border around advertisements with tape took a lot of time, and I could put a border around an advertisement very quickly. So they started to lay off a lot of people, and of course the computer guys stayed. And that was interesting to watch that change. I even used a wax roller where we were like putting advertisements on putting wax on the back and sticking them on to sheets to get them filmed and make negatives of the newspapers. Then in the 2000s, I graduated in graphic design from Weber State University, and I jumped into the Adobe programs, and I started to learn HTML and CSS, and I taught courses at Eagle Gate College in those programs. And then the 2010s, I started to jump into the SaaS world, software as a service, and do user interface and user experience design. I sold a lot of software right around here in Washington County at a municipal code industry, and then was training a lot of clerks on how to use technology and use services that could really make their lives more efficient. Well, then come 2020s, which as you all know, artificial intelligence has hit us, and it's been an interesting ride. And I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how I got to where I am with Kindex. And it's going to be kind of a little bit of a personal story of my company, but also trying to expand your minds a little bit on the power of AI. So my grandma was Dorothy Smith Clark. Her grandfather was Jesse N. Smith, who settled Parowan, just north of here, and also Snowflake, Arizona. And so as you can see here, this is her, where she would go to genealogy conferences and talk about how she can preserve history. Well, Dorothy didn't keep a journal. She kept some scrapbooks that were extremely extravagant and beautiful, well written. She was a commercial artist. As you can see, her typography is beautiful. And she even dressed up as a man to get a job. Back in the day, they couldn't get a job if you're a woman in commercial art. So she dressed up as a man and got the job. Interesting. So fascinating woman. But what did we do with Dorothy's letters? Well, she didn't keep a journal. She had bins of letters. And what did my cousin and I choose to do? Well, we decided to scan every one of them, and we provided them to the family. And interestingly enough, the family didn't access my little coded link where I could actually see who downloaded the link. Nobody did. And I shared it with like 35 or 36 people, and zero. Okay, nobody downloaded it, and I was shocked. And I started to call my aunts and uncles and cousins and say, "How come you hadn't downloaded it?" And they said, "Because all of her stuff's in cursive. I don't want to read her cursive letters." And I was shocked. These are people that had learned cursive. They just didn't care to read it. And I said, "Well, what would you do if you could search every word of her cursive script? Every single thing?" And they said, "I would search it. I would do it." And I said, "Really, will you?" And they said, "Yes, I would. It would be so easy." And I said, "What would you search?" And they said, "My name." to see what grandma said about me, right? So the problem was really access. How can I get my family to access my grandma's letters, okay? So at the time, what were my options when we scanned all these letters? Well, I scanned and digitized them. I could transcribe them using Word, and then I could share them in print form to my family. That'd be great, right? But it was the same material that we all have, and it was maybe the same approach. What else could I do with this? So this is the same material and the same approach method that we have been doing for years. So in the 80s, when I went to the library as an elementary student, we learned about the card catalogs, of course, where we found what we needed from extrinsic data. So data about the data, such as author, publication date, location of record, possible summary. Well, with Kindex, what I tried to do is change things a little bit and not do the same old, but rather scan the material, archive it online, and then transcribe it on an online format instead of in Word, and then search it once it's been transcribed. And I thought that'd be a clever, unique way to handle this material. So different approach, collaborative transcription, opposed to just transcribing using Word, where everybody can transcribe together. And that was powerful. This is 2015 that we're building this, okay? 2016 we launched, and suddenly everybody was transcribing the material of their families. And they were able to sort of step in the shoes of, let's suppose Charlotte's family had this material. They could step in the shoes of Juanita Brooks and type or transcribe what she had written, okay? And understand who they were. Very powerful software. And of course, once it's transcribed, you could keyword search. So here's an example of a side-by-side. Here we have the original, and there's the transcription. So what this enabled us to do is to search and find what we needed from intrinsic data, not extrinsic data. No longer are we searching about the data, but we're searching the content itself. So we're sort of turning libraries on their heads. Instead of going to the card catalog and seeing about the data, you're actually getting right into the data instantly, okay? What a great service during COVID. Okay, think on that for a second. What a great service during COVID to be able to access that data. So this is an image that I always have loved, okay? And so this is what I learned about Kindex, though, and I'm gonna rip my company a little bit, okay? We found that we were making all these customers have to transcribe all this data themselves with their family. They were all crunching down on a computer and having to transcribe mountains of pages of letters, okay? It was a lot of work. So we allowed AI to change our company. So I want to talk a little bit about the different kinds of AI real quick, okay? There is weak AI, strong AI, and super AI, okay? This is from IBM. Weak AI can be trained to perform a single or narrow task, often far faster and better than a human mind can. Strong AI is a theoretical concept. It uses previous learnings to accomplish new tasks without the need for human beings to train the underlying models. And super AI is strictly theoretical. Super AI would think, reason, learn, make judgments, and possess cognitive abilities that surpass those of human beings. Now note, the last two, strong and super, are theoretical. They're not around, okay? Weak, however, is around. We're using it. If you ever want to get a little deep dive into what AI really is, there's an excellent interview. Does anybody know who this is by chance? Yeah, the leader of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. Okay, he has an exceptional interview by Joe Rogan on YouTube. And what you have here is a polar opposites, a pessimist and an optimist about AI. Joe Rogan being the pessimist and Jensen Huang being the optimist. And you need to listen to this if you want a good deep dive into what AI really is. And some of the AI developers that I work with say this is one of the best interviews they've ever heard of AI, and it's probably the most accurate. So I would strongly recommend watching that. So what we realized at Kindex is we were making our customers suffer. We were giving them tedious work, okay? So here's some good definitions of tedium I want you to read. And I like the last one. she began to wonder whether she would go crazy with the tedium of the job. So here I was selling the software to all these customers at Roots Tech, etc., that they had a ton of homework to do. They'd go home, scan, and they'd have to transcribe all the stuff. So we decided, let's not just make it so you have to transcribe it and then you can search it. Let's actually use AI to transcribe, and then maybe we can share this material in a different way than just searching, okay? So we can take documents, and we can have AI do the transcription instantly, which is OCR and handwriting recognition automatically. This is what we did in 2022 once it got good enough. We can take images and we can describe them instantly with what's called image captioning. And we can take audio and make speech to text transcription. Now we are allowing you to search the extraneous metadata and the extrinsic data. I should have said intrinsic data itself, not extrinsic. That's an error. But anyway, so we're allowing you to search extraneous and intrinsic data all at once, and the native metadata that's built into the file. Did anybody follow the divorce case with Johnny Depp and the bruise picture? Did you follow that? Did you know what happened with the bruise picture? Why they said it ruled it incorrect? Because the metadata had a wrong date of the file. Okay. So she was claiming that that he had abused her, and the date in the metadata said something different. So the metadata is important to the historicity of a record. So we allowed Kindex to change us. Now people don't really transcribe in Kindex; they just correct what the AI got wrong. That's substantial. So now no longer am I giving my customers tedious work; they're just correcting the work that the AI got 95% correct, estimated. Okay. They're just fixing the minute details. Another thing is we can share that data. And let me give you some examples that are new on how we can share that data. So here's maybe a little bit of an interesting, let's see if the audio will work on this. Can you guys hear that okay? Okay. So this is Alva. This is the grandfather of my business partner. And we took a picture, a still picture. We used a third-party service that could do a deep fake of his mouth, and also another third-party service, deep fake of his audio, okay? And we asked it a question, okay? So this is a man who attended the World Fair at one time. So I asked him, did you ever attend a fair? Okay, this is what he said.
I don't recall attending a fair specifically, but growing up in Cedar City provided many opportunities for community gatherings and events. Our town had a strong sense of community, and I always enjoyed participating in local events that brought everyone together.
Okay, so here we have a different way to share this material. This man is deceased, he's passed, but now he's actually responding to a prompt. 6 months after creating this, I asked the same question again and it got it right. He actually did attend a World Fair, okay? So AI is getting better and smarter, and the way that we interact with the data is changing, okay? Here's another thing that we're working on. This is a service called GlyphForge, and we're basically able, ooh, that's kind of weird. That's doing some weird stuff. Okay, so we're basically able to, let me see if I can refresh this. Okay, we are able to to digitize family genealogy books and automatically create family trees from those genealogy books once scanned. Okay, this is allowing me, this is one book. This is a Portuguese book of genealogy, okay? And I can see who those people are and who they're related to or connected to instantly, and it's automatically able to export it right to Family Search. So there's another way where we can use AI in a unique, clever way. I'm going to end on this note. This is Lehi Larson Smith, so Jesse N. Smith, who settled Parowan in Snowflake. This is his son, and he was in Snowflake, Arizona, and got called up to serve in World War I. And we were able to take this second-hand account. So this is where his sister took all the letters that he had sent from World War I before he was killed, okay? And we were able to transcribe them instantly. And so we're going to read over this story. About midnight, the Germans bombarded us. A shell fell directly on Lehi. The shock was so near to me that I thought I was going to be thrown out of my dugout. We did not sleep any more that night. I did not hear a sound from Lehi, but I knew he was dead. When daylight finally came, I could see pieces of his clothes and blankets hanging on the trees. I went and found the captain and told him Lehi was dead. He went out with me to see. We found the upper part of his body natural, his head, arms, and chest natural, one leg and most of the other gone. We gathered up all pieces we could find, wrapped him in my blanket, his blankets entirely destroyed, and buried him in Shell Hole where he was killed. I made a cross and placed identification marks and tags upon it. I had lost my helmet or used Lehi's all the rest of the time I was fighting. I intended to bring home with me, but had to turn it in, and then I couldn't tell it from the others. I had forgotten to mark it. Everybody liked Lehi. He was sure a good boy. We all called him Lehi instead of Smith. He was known by everybody as Lehi because there were other Smiths. This is all we can remember now. Asahel from Pine Top, Arizona. Oh, no, the next one is from Pine Top, Arizona, another individual who testified of his witnessing his death, who was also from Arizona in his group. So we were able to do this immediately. This was well over 100 pages of records. You hit a button, it transcribed it all. And the beautiful thing about all of this is that as I've been able to do this, I've been able to meet wonderful people and help them get their data accessible. Here we have Val Schwendeman on the right. He's a potato farmer up in northern Idaho. He had 50 years of journal writing, and we transcribed all of them in a day. Here we have June, or not June, I call her June, Lynette Mills, and she is the descendant or related to Lehi Larson Smith, and she's also related to me, and she and I cried together as we read that account of Lehi's passing. There on the right, you might know who she is. She's Gracia Jones, one of the first descendants of Joseph and Emma Smith, who converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints post Brigham Young. There on the left is Carol Waddell, who is my cousin that I never really knew because she was always living in a different state. But when her mother passed, we were able to look at all the images that she had described that she didn't know who were in those images. And here we have a forensic investigative genetic genealogy case in Richfield, Utah, where we had scanned as many yearbooks as we possibly could access to discover this woman's right here half-sister, whose child is currently a Jane Doe murder victim in California. And those yearbooks, by transcribing them instantly, will likely able to help us tease out the mother of Jane Doe and therefore assess who Jane Doe really was. And so AI is helping me get to know more people and really connect with technology in a way that I never would have imagined and get me off of the computer and out among the people. Thank you.